Okay, so in this video we're going to be doing the week 2 tasks. We've already started a little bit on that with the damage over time volume, and of course building the player's health to actually show that. So we'll be starting with making a turret. To do that we'll jump into student work, into blueprints, and we'll make a new blueprint actor. BP_turret. We'll jump in, we'll arrow open up, and we're going to add a couple of static meshes to this, just so that we can recognise it as a turret. I think there's a lamp here that we can use, and that gives us a good base. If we just compile, we can switch this emissive out. Just use the gunmetal for now, we can come back and make this look nicer another time. No, we'll mess about another time. We'll add another static mesh. Oh no. We want it on the root. So, for the gun, I'm pretty sure there is a gun mesh. Turret is what I need to be looking for. Okay, so now we'll take the base and we'll just scale that up a touch, just so that it's more suitable with the mesh, the gun mesh. Bring this over. Probably get away with making this a touch smaller. Something like that. We're not really going to see below it because we're a top-down view, so it doesn't matter that it looks a little bit weird on the underside, as long as we can get this so it'll rotate nicely. Is this? Have I got this set up at the wrong part? Let's just jump over and have a look at this on the tank itself. Ah, it's because of how it rotates on the tank, but we can make that work. So jump back into here. That'll rotate at the correct point there, because we're going to want the turret rotate to face the player. Right, so what we'll do is we'll change the collision on both of these now. So we're going to go custom collision, and this is going to ignore enemy projectiles. Object type is enemy, and then we'll do the same for the gun just to make sure that we can actually shoot these. So custom, object type is enemy, and we want to ignore enemy projectiles because we don't want the enemies to be able to shoot each other, ideally. So now on the gun we want to add an arrow, because this is going to be the point that we'll be firing from. We'll just set this at a good position at the front of the turret. Just set this to 5 just so I can bring it out that little bit further. That little bit further from the mesh, and if we have any issues with collision when we're spawning these projectiles, we know we need to move it a little further out, but that should be okay. We'll see. So now that we have this, we actually want to make a projectile that it can fire. So we will take just the BP projectile. I'm just going to duplicate this, call this BP underscore enemy projectile. I'll put R open for a minute, go into the viewport, there's the mesh, so that's using MI emissive red. We won't be able to differentiate it from the player's bullets. So if we go into the materials and we create another instance of the emissive, and we'll call this emissive enemy projectile, and we will actually put the I there so that it's a material instance. Then we can open this up. We'll change the colour. Let's try and deepen this red maybe a bit so that it's a bit more clear. We lose the emissive though by doing this, that's the trouble. I think for now, for the enemy projectiles, I'm going to go for quite a clear yellow. We'll hit save on that. Switch this over to MI underscore emissive enemy projectile, and I'll just avoid using this colour for the player's projectiles. I might just colour code all of the player's projectiles to one colour, but I quite like being able to have different effects on the screen, so that's something for planning. I'll revisit that, but this is easy to switch out if I decide to change it. So now if we go into the collision settings for this, this isn't a player projectile, this is an enemy projectile. We want to ignore enemies, we want to ignore enemy projectiles, and we want to ignore player projectiles. So yes, this should collide with the player. Let's just double check this. We're probably best blocking pawn rather than overlapping, because I'm pretty sure it's a hit event. And we'll do the same for vehicle, but I'm not sure that's going to be applicable unless the player tank is classed as a vehicle, but I'm pretty sure it's a pawn. So now we can compile, save that, jump back over into the turret and compile this, go into the event graph. Don't need these nodes, want a new custom event, and this will be fire projectile. I'm going to be spawning after a class. We're going to want BP underscore enemy projectile. There we are. Then we want the arrows location, be world location even. Let's do this right. So get the world location, and we're going to want the world rotation. Just neaten this up a touch, and we can split this pin. Because we want the location, we want the rotation, but we don't want to affect the scale. So that'll start messing things up. So we want to see this working, and if I only make it fire one bullet, there's a good chance I'm going to miss it. So if I just do event begin play, want to timer by event, set time by event, every second, loop in, and the event I want it to do is fire projectile. Just compile that and let's see this working. So we got the turret. I'll just put it over here for now so that we can see it. Hit play. You can see the turret's firing. Can we take damage from it? Yeah. And this should kill the player as well. Yep. And then we can restart. And the turret's still firing. Good stuff. Okay, so now that functions, we could go in, we could change the settings of the projectile. We could make the projectiles faster, we could change the shape of the projectile. I could add gravity to the projectile, which would allow the projectile to like fire down off ledges, which would be good for like maybe the turrets on the bridge. We can also use this homing projectile to make it home towards the target. But for now, let's just focus on making the turret function as we'd like it to, because just having it fire on begin play isn't all that helpful. So what we're going to do is find a sphere collision. Okay, and we'll just up the radius of this sphere. Try it at 1000. I can always scale this back. Yeah, always scale this back. And what we want is on begin overlap. We'll use a different event than begin play. This is the fire logic. So on begin overlap, we want to custom event, initialize fire, initialize fire, and then we want, if we promote this to a variable, then get the sphere, and we want on end overlap. We're going to get the fire timer, and clear and invalidate timer. Just comment this. Overlap. Logic. Right, so now when we overlap, we're going to initialize fire, which will start the timer. And when we end the overlap, we're going to clear and invalidate the timer so it'll stop shooting. So now what we want to do is have another function, custom event down here. And this is going to be look at player, which almost became look at plate for some reason there. So on overlap, we're going to look at player. We'll have another custom event down here. Stop looking at player. There we go, stop looking at player. Okay, now can we get the other actor of the overlap? If we make this a variable, what am I doing? That's fine. So initialize fire, look at player. So we're going to set the overlapping actor, and when we finish overlapping, we're going to set the overlapping actor to nothing again. And then we want to get the gun and set the world rotation. And we want the overlapping actor so we're going to get actor location for self, and then we're going to get the actor location for the overlapping actor. Then we want to find the look at rotation. Of the overlapping actor, and that's going to be the new rotation. But we don't want to do that off there. We want to make this initialize look at player. Which will then run look at player. Okay, so this will go into here. Then this is going to what's the name of the node again? I always struggle to remember the name of it. Set timer by event. There we go, set timer by event. No, we don't want you to do that. We want to run this event. And the time on this, we're just going to set it to like 0.001, which is essentially like using tick, but we've just got that little bit more control over it. And this is look at player. Just make this black again, just very easier on my eyes. And we want to promote this to a variable, and this is the lookat timer. We're going to get that lookat timer. We want to clear and invalidate timer by handle when we want to stop looking at the player. Stop looking at player. Okay, so now that should work. We'll see in a moment. And just to run through this, the overlap logic. On overlap, we save the overlap in actor, we initialize fire, and initialize looking at the player. So we start firing, and we start looking at the player. And then when we end overlap, we clear and invalidate the timer for firing. We stop looking at the player, and we set the overlapping actor to nothing again. Let's see if that works. It certainly tries. Maybe I am best using tick and just putting it through a gate. Okay, so am I just being dumb is the question, because that's not set to looping. Let's see if that fixes the problem. Yeah, so now the turret follows us, but it's not firing the projectile anymore. So that's a step closer. Okay, let's try this with booleans. So we'll say player in range, and we're going to get rid of these for now because this can be built. Get player in. Oh. set player in range even. And that's true. And let's just compile because, yeah, we don't want the player to be in range by default. And we want to set player in range to false on end overlap. And we'll neaten this up after, but we want to clear the overlap in actor 2. So we want to initialize fire because we know that that is functioning. We've used this, and while this is functioning, we're going to get rid of initialize look at player. We're going to get rid of this timer by event as well, and the lookup timer. We'll delete the lookup timer here, and we're going to go on tick. And then we're going to take a branch. We're going to check if the player's in range. And if they're not, do nothing. And if they are, do that. So we don't need to stop looking at the player because that will be handled by the boolean. And then we want to clear and invalidate the timer for fire timer when we end overlap. Let's see if that's fixed it. Nope, doesn't seem to be firing, so maybe it's the issue that we potentially highlighted earlier, where if we go into the turret, the viewport, and let's just move this arrow another, let's do a couple out just to make sure that it's definitely not a collision issue. So it's running there on tick, but it just doesn't seem to want to shoot at me now. So what's running here? Initialize fire. So every second, looping, it's going to fire projectile and set the fire timer. And initialize fire is set. Okay, so let's just hit F9 and we'll troubleshoot this. So we are hitting that. Are we hitting this? Yep, we're hitting that. So is it actually firing the projectile? It reckons it is firing the projectile. I think it's telling porcupines. Right, so now we test there, the actual spawning of the actor. And it thinks it's doing it. Why does it think it's doing it? transform location, location, transform rotation, rotation, so everything seems correct. So maybe it's something wrong with the projectile itself. Let's just print a string here. Projectile destroyed, so now we can tell if it's getting hit by the actual turret and destroying itself and we're just not seeing it. And that is exactly what's happening, because we're getting the feed in the top left there, so it's colliding with the turret for some reason. So, pretty sure there's a fix for this. It's not a problem with this, but I suppose the arrow is quite a bit further out from it. So, we'll just switch that up here. Bring this even further out. Bring it 5 back again, just so we're working in tens. Okay, let's try that again. Nope, it is getting destroyed. That is strange. Okay, let's go into the collision settings then. This is an enemy projectile. Blocking mode dynamic. Ignoring player projectile, enemy and detection. And this is an enemy projectile, and then on the turret we've got the base, which is an enemy. It's ignoring enemy projectiles and blocking player projectiles. Gun. It's the same. The arrow doesn't have collision, or at least it shouldn't. No, I didn't think arrows had collision. Sphere. Maybe it's the sphere. Maybe that's what it is. So we want overlap only pawn. I bet that's what it was, and I'm just being stupid. No, it's still getting destroyed. Okay. I feel like we're getting close though. So maybe it is something to do with this. We want custom. We don't want to block enemy projectiles or player projectiles. In fact, we only want to overlap pawn. We're not even interested in overlapping enemies. We only want to overlap pawn. I don't know what should. What's visibility do for us here? Trace responses. Let's try that. Hopefully that's done it. There we go. And now the turret follows us. It's always something silly like that. It's always a setting there amiss somewhere, but it's easy done. And now the turret is firing too high for us, but that's fine. We can go back into the turret now. And we can bring this arrow down a bit. And let's see how noticeable that is. Really could do with bringing the gun down. What if we take the base and we shrink it this way? And then we take the gun and bring it down like that. Now we test that. Is that too low or is that good now? Yeah, that's good now. Quite easy to avoid those when you're turning, it seems. So maybe we want to bring that just a touch lower. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do, just while I'm testing these things, is pull this screen onto another screen here, just so that I can be changing these values quite quickly. Does that hit more consistently? Yeah. Doesn't feel like they're going past me as easily. We can hit R to restart there. So that's a better height. I only ended up dropping it down like another 10 centimeters there. And you can't see the lamp sticking through. So that's good. We've got a turret that can target the player. Now really we want to give this some health so that we can destroy it back. So we're going to give it a variable for max health, and that's going to be a float. Okay, give it a variable for current health, which is also going to be a float. I mean, we could just leave those exposed. We don't need those exposing though, so we're going to get event any damage. We also want a death event. So we're going to want a variable for is dead. It's going to be a boolean, and we'll have a custom event called death, and currently all we want death to do is destroy the actor. Target self. So I'll just call this death. And the event any damage is going to take the current health. And it's going to subtract the received damage. We're going to get a branch, check if we're dead. If we're dead we do nothing. If we're not dead we set the current health. And we want this clamping. Between 0 and the max health there. I'll tidy this up in a moment. In fact, I'll tidy it up now. And then we're going to take the output of this clamp and use that to set the current health. We're just going to set the max health to maybe 100 for now, and the current health to 100 as well. We can mess with this properly when we actually do the enemy AI. We'll have different enemies with different health values. So if we're not dead, then set the current health after taking the damage, and then we want to check if current health is greater than or equal to, not greater than, less than or equal to 0, and if it is, then we want to run death. That should work. Just quickly knocking this together, but we'll try it. Just get the shotgun. If I can hit with the shotgun. Oh, that's skillfully avoiding me. So, we found a new issue. We need to put something on top of the turret so we can shoot it back. That's no problem. Jump back into the turret and viewport. And we'll add onto the gun so it rotates with it. Another static mesh. This will be... we'll just keep it at static mesh. We'll know what it is when we're in there. It's like a dome light, I think, so... that. Now, if I stretch her upwards like this a bit, and we change this to a maybe hang on, we need to compile so that we get the, there we go, I underscore emissive red. Is that tall enough to shoot, is the question. Just simulate here. More accurate with this. It's hard to hit, but we are hitting it now, so do we kill it when we deal enough damage? Yes, we do. We destroy it when we deal enough damage. The issue now is hitting it. But I imagine that would be easier with something like the AR up here. And when there's more enemies on the screen, this will be much easier to do. No, that's still really hard to hit, isn't it? Yeah, so you can hit it, but that's crazy to actually hit. Let's go into here. We want this set to custom collision. This is enemy. Maybe this will help for a start. We want to ignore enemy projectiles. Block everything else. Okay. Maybe if we make it a little bit bigger like that, might be a bit easier to hit. Failing all else, I'll give it a collision around it that just makes it a bit more forgiving for the player, just another sphere collision, just to allow the player to shoot the thing. But we'll see if that helps. That's much more possible. I mean, it's supposed to be hard, I suppose. Is it supposed to be that hard? It works, is the point. This is for further experimentation, I think, when I actually make enemies, because when I turn this into a game, I'm not sure that I'll be using turrets, because my intention is to make a wave defense. Okay, so now that we have that, the other thing that is in the stretch goals is to make a healing zone rather than a damaging zone, which isn't hard to do. We can jump into the blueprints. We could even take a duplicate of the acid pool. We'll just call this healing zone. We'll open that up. We're also going to want a new material. We'll just create a new material. Underscore healing zone. And in here we're just going to set this to a translucent. Get a 3 vector, plug that into the base colour, and set this to something like a green. Green's usually good for healing. And then we want a scalar, just use a scalar value, we won't make it a parameter. And set this to 0.2, so maybe 0.3, just so we've got a nice clear zone. What if we make it emissive too? Multiply this by maybe 5, and then plug that into the emissive there. And we'll make this 0.1. Try 2 on the emissive. Got a bit of a glow there. Let's see how that looks. So we're going to the healing zone now, and we can switch. Oh, of course, the acid's green. Maybe we should make that blue. Something like that. Now we'll jump into the healing zone and go to the static mesh, and we're going to switch this to underscore healing zone. Like that. Nice. That's 0.05. Set the emissive back to 1. Yeah, I feel like that's less oppressive and still translucent. So, with this, we're going to jump into the event graph, and where we've got the damage interval, let's change this to healing interval. And compile it. Rather than 1, we're going to do -1. And then the damage timer is the healing timer. And that should, in theory, do it. So if I take this damaging zone, well, this healing zone, and throw it into the level over here, let's say. And then we can hit play. Come over here and take some damage from the turret. That'll do. Move out of range and the turret stops firing. And we can move into the healing zone. And that's not healing, but that's okay. Now we know what we're troubleshooting. So, we want this to be heal on overlap. And clear heal timer. We want this to be 1, because that was the interval, not the amount to heal. The base damage is -10. That should do it. I was just dumb, I changed the wrong variable. So now, we try again. Come in and take a load of damage. Then we can come over here and heal it back again. Those effects are showing red healing. So let's just jump back into the player character for a moment now. And we want to find damage FX. I know it's here somewhere. Face, load new weapon, input to weapon, basic movement, control mapping, add base weapon, this is where we're setting the starter weapon, laser sight and initialize UI, death, so there's damage FX, is there a function? Yes, it's a function. Camera shake. Here we are. So well, that's strange. It should be flashing green then. Because all that's correct. Taking the damage amount and comparing it with 0. So if it's greater than 0, shake and do red, and if it's less than 0, shake and do red. If it's greater than, shake and do green. So why is that not working? Let's just double check again here. Yeah, so that's red. And that is also red. We don't need that. So apply damage we're doing as a negative value. That comes through on the player character. Checks the current health. Deducts the damage from the health. So minusing a minus, which is positive. Setting the current health and playing damage effects with that amount. Ah, of course. So it thinks it's damage. What we need to do is when it's healing, make this a minus. It's not a problem though. Just drag this over. And we'll bring this over to I don't know if we've got a variable already provided, but I'll just make a boolean is healing. And if is healing is true, no, if is healing is false, then do what we already have, which is fine. Just Control Z that out. Just think for a moment. Or if we don't use current health for the damage effects at all, and we take it straight off the damage that we're receiving, that is probably where we're going wrong here. I don't need to be adding extra calculations, I just need to use this for the input. Now if I save that, that should work. So I take damage and it's red. Then we heal, and it's green. Perfect. There we go. So finishing up with the second lot of weekly tasks, I've created a third weapon now. This is more experimentation than anything, but I've created a Tesla coil. And this just creates one large projectile on the player with a really short lifespan and no movement. And it's quite a low damage value, it's only 5 damage each pulse, but it's just to see if I can get the logic working and I can make it look good after. You notice there's like a panning texture on there, a material. That's nothing too complicated. If I can just find where I've put that. I think I've got it here, there we go. So this is just using a 3 vector colour as the base colour, and then onto that we're adding a second 3 vector colour multiplied by a noise texture with a panner, and then we're just lowering the opacity of that so that it's not quite so harsh against it, adding it onto this original colour as I said and feeding that into base. And we've set this material to be translucent, so I've got that set to 0.2 so it's a nice low opacity and you can still see the player through the projectile. The shotgun I don't think I ever actually showed the logic for. but this just follows the basic logic of spawning the projectiles, spawning actor of class. But we do it a few more times, so it fires 5 rounds, sorry, because it's 0 based. And each one spawns an actor of class, whichever projectile class are set in the variable here. We get the world location of the direction arrow on the tank, and we're using that as the spawn transform location. And then for rotation, we're getting the world rotation of the tank on X and Y and feeding that directly into the actor. But then for the yaw, we're doing a little plus minus to give us a 30-degree cone, taking a random float-in range and using that for the yaw on each one of these. Now I could fine-tune that more to ensure that they always spray outwards, but I enjoyed the chaos of just a random fire, just a burst fire for this type of shotgun. So it runs through each one of them in sequence, and then the final entry in the sequence up there is to run the cooldown event. So set the cooldown, run the timer by event using bullet delay for the timer, so we can set the speed that the bullets fire. And then that uses event cooldown to set the cooldown again, ready to fire again. So that concludes the second lot of weekly tasks. Just have a little run around here and we'll fire all the weapons. We'll kill this turret. But that's everything for this series of tasks. I'll be moving on to week 3 tasks next. Catch you in the next one, guys.
Let's go.